Dresses hanging in the wind tonight, silent witnesses to stories untold. Sisters, mothers, daughters out of sight, their voices echo, brave and bold. Every face upon the missing wall has a name, a dream, a beating heart. We won't let their memory fall. Each one precious from the start. They matter, every single soul. They matter, we won't let go. Stand up, speak out, don't turn away. Search for justice every day. They matter, and we'll never stop the fight. They matter, every single soul. They matter, we won't let go. Stand up, speak out, don't turn away. Search for justice every day. They matter, and we'll never stop the fight. Indigenous people, strong and free, women, men, and children too. Your lives have meaning, you belong. We hear your voices call. All lives matter in this sacred space. Every soul within our human race. True seekers, Junkies, unite. We are family, we'll make this right. We will
Ninja.
stand up and join the fight.
Just turn the microphone off on your Ninja.
They matter, every single soul. They matter, we won't let go. Stand together,
Yeah,
such a
on your laptop, I'm sorry.
every case is done. They matter, and love will light the way. Red dresses dancing in the light, reminding us to never give up the fight. We all matter, we all matter, we all matter. One human family, standing together. Red dresses dancing in the light, reminding us to never give up the fight. We all matter.
Okay, here you go.
We all matter. We all matter. One human family.
And Matt and Sarah, I'm glad you joined us. I know more will be coming, and I'm just thrilled you're here tonight. Greetings to all the truth seekers and justice warriors out there. I'm your storyteller in this wilderness of injustice. My ride or die doc is riding shotgun as we navigate the darkness where the predators hunt and the system fails. But we're ready to shine a light on the forgotten stories that society would rather leave buried. So buckle up. The path ahead grows bumpy as we lead you through another section of this nightmare they call a justice system. Tonight, we're focusing on a case that hits close to home for many families. This is the disappearance of 17-year-old Sara Isabel Martinez from Fort Worth, Texas. Sara vanished in the early morning hours of December 29th of 2024, and despite months of searching, she's still missing. And this is precisely the kind of case that gets swept under the rug. Another young Indigenous woman who the system treats as disposable. We're not going to. And with me tonight is Sara's mother, Samantha Perez, who's agreed to share her story in the hopes of bringing her daughter home safely. And also joining us is Jodie Voice Yellowfish, the chair of MMIW Texas Rematriate, an organization whose mission is to search for and bring home missing relatives, to support them and offer healing processes to the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples and their families, to advocate for them. And she's got a strong voice to advocate for the social change on behalf of the Indigenous relatives. Samantha and Jodie, thank you both for joining us during what I know is a tough time. Can you girls hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. And Pammy just joined us. So Sarah or Samantha, why don't you tell us a little bit about Sarah? Who was she? Who is she? What kind of a girl was she?
Sarah's very, she's very, she's very funny. She's not like she's very quiet. She's not the first person to like start conversation, or she's not
Okay.
the most popular kid. She says a lot to herself. Um, but once you start talking to her and once you get her going, she'll be your best friend. And she's got to feel like that closeness with someone. And she's really funny. She's not very athletic, but she tries her hardest. She loves to read, and she's always loved to read.
She sounds like my kind of girl.
Yeah, and she likes just watch TV shows. She was just teenage regular girl, just wants to be home and be on her phone and watch her shows or her movies. She loves scary movies. She's was seen all the Conjuring movies, all the Final Destination. She's very into like Halloween. Her birthday is October 22nd, so Halloween is her favorite holiday. And so yeah, she's very special in her own way. Very goofy as well. Very funny. So
Well, I can understand that. I don't like the scary movies. I can honestly say sports and I didn't get along, even though I got tall very quickly. I was klutz.
yeah, she is a little bit of a klutz too. So,
Yeah,
but
but you could
she,
always find me with my nose in a book.
yes, she loves to read. She started reading when she was 4.
Oh,
She
wow.
was on a second grade level. She was reading chapter books in kindergarten. Um, she was enrolled in the Gifted and Talented. She won many awards when she was younger. Media Fair Awards for the Arlington School District, and she's very smart. And
She sounds
she
like a very smart young lady.
she's very smart. And she had dreams. She wanted to go into forensics. Actually, that
Oh,
was her
wow.
that was her goal.
Okay, well, that's awesome. So, what happened, if you can walk me through that last day on December 28th? What was your day like with the girls? Because you have another daughter, correct? A younger one.
Yes, I
So, what
have.
was your day with the girls?
So actually, it was right after Christmas. So the office that I worked for, we were closed during the week, a couple days that week. So to make up, we had to work that Saturday. And so I woke up. The girls were still sleeping, and we were gonna have family come over that night. We still had one more gift exchange to do, and so I left for work. I always let Sarah know, because she watches her little sister and takes care of her. So I always tell her like, hey, I'm going to work. Text me if you need anything. I'll call you guys later. And I told her, what she had to do, just like, hey, like me, I told her, make sure the dishes are done. Cause as soon as I got home, we were going to have to start cooking and getting ready for our family to come over.
Okay.
So I told her I was leaving for work, and make sure your rooms are clean and the dishes get done, and make sure you clean the bathroom. The guest bathroom's got to be clean. So, and she just said, okay. And her normal, she's half asleep, her little, okay, yeah. Like she'll get to it. And I came home, and, of course first thing I do is I go to their rooms. Like, what are y'all doing? Of course, my younger one, Selena, she's very, mom, you're back. and I go check on Sarah, and she was already she was doing her hair, and she was straightening her hair, and so, and I was just like, oh, okay, good, like, you're ready. And um so then I came and I got out of my scrubs and started cooking dinner, getting everything ready. We had steaks, and I actually bought stuff to do a charcuterie board, and Sarah was very excited about it because she looked up different ways to fold the meats and do the cheese, and she was like, this is my project. I'm going to take over this charcuterie board. So, and she kept picking at it, and I kept telling her, like, I kept slapping her hands, like, stop picking at the food. And so she, she did that whole board, and I wish I would have took a picture of it. But I didn't. And yeah, I made the steaks and all the sides, and she made the charcuterie board, and our family came, and we were still playing Christmas music. We still had Christmas music playing. We opened gifts, and the teenagers, she was hanging out with the teenagers, and my little one was hanging out with her little cousin, and and then us adults were here in the kitchen just having family time.
So
And
it was
then
a
we're
really
like,
good day, right?
yeah, it was a really good day. And then we had the last thing we were going to do was make the s'mores. And so I started getting all the stuff ready for the s'mores, and we all went out to the fire pit in our backyard, and all the kids made s'mores, and it was a good night. Our guests left at 12:17 in the morning, and um, me and my boyfriend, we stayed up for probably an hour, if that, after they had left. And I went to Selena's room, my youngest, and she was asleep. And I went to Sarah's room, and she was also asleep. And I went to sleep. And I woke up the next morning. When I woke up, it was still quiet. I didn't hear like noise in the living room or in the kitchen. So, and it was like 10, it was about 10:30. So I figured, maybe the girls are just sleeping in. And so I went back to sleep, and I woke up. I woke up about noon, and when I woke back up, I went to Selena's room, and she was awake. I told her to get ready because I wanted to take them somewhere. And then I went to Sarah's room, and the blinds were open. Sarah's also, she always had her blinds closed. So and she had a thing for, she would make like this pile of blankets and pillows on the floor. Like she would lay on the floor sometimes.
Make herself a nest.
Right, exactly, a little nest. And
Yeah.
I opened her room, and the first thing I noticed is the sunlight. So I said, oh, it's so bright and shiny in here. And because I didn't see her on her bed, and I walked into her room where she would usually lay on the floor, and she wasn't there. And now that I had walked in further into her room, the window was open, and I just started calling out her name. Like, and our house is not that big, so I started calling her name, looked in her closet, um, looked in the bathroom. I asked Selena, I said, have you seen Sarah today? And she said, no. And I said, have you been in her room? And she said, no. I thought she was still sleeping. And I ran to the backyard because her window is like on the side of the house, but on the backyard side.
Okay.
And just started calling her name, and that's when the panic set in, and she wasn't there. So
Had,
after
had
trying to
she
call,
ever, Samantha, had she ever run off before?
no,
Okay, so it
no,
really, this isn't anything that was normal. You
far,
had
very far from normal.
you had a perfect day or evening with your girls and family. Did Sarah know you had plans to go somewhere that next day? Had you told?
No, she didn't. I was actually surprising them because we had seen on TikTok at the Arlington Arts Museum that they had this Disney display where they had like costumes and like props from movies, from like the live action movies and things like that. And we all love Disney. Me and my kids, we love Disney. We love Disney movies. We love going to Disney World. Um, so while they were on winter break, sorry.
That's
Um,
okay, sweetheart. You take your time.
so while because it was their winter break, and so I said that I'm gonna surprise them, to go. We're gonna go to the museum and go see this exhibit that we all wanted to go see. So no, she had no idea what our plans were for that day. Um, and sometimes I do think like if I would have told her, like, would she have changed her mind, or would she had like thought maybe like
It's
thought
hard.
out
The
it
shoulda, woulda,
more?
couldas.
Yeah.
That goes through your head, and Samantha, you can't blame yourself. Um, Young people make silly mistakes sometimes. That's what our youth is about. We make mistakes, um, and usually they don't turn out as badly as that we don't come home. So, but don't blame yourself, darling. And I know you had to have been terrified. I remember myself one time. My niece was actually 3 years older than I was, and my mother told me to go wake her up. And well, she had her door locked, but I'd seen my dad pick the lock, so I knew how to do it. And I unlocked it and I opened it, and like you said, the window was open. And I'm like, Mom, she's not here, and the window's open, and we could hear my dad coming down the hall. And Mom said, lock it and shut the door. And so then when he came down, she told him to go open it up.
Uh-huh.
And then, and fortunately, we got her back after, a day, because she happened to cross a sheriff who saw her hitchhiking. So she didn't end up out there long, but I can remember it. It's a terrifying feeling, and you've had to deal with this for far too long. So did
Yeah,
you called the police right away, correct? After.
I did. Um, you know, we immediately jump in the car and start driving around. That's what my boyfriend did. Um, I stayed home. My little one's freaking out. She doesn't know what's going on. She just knows like Sarah's not here.
Right.
Um, I called 911 at 1:14,
Okay.
and I just told them that, my daughter is missing. They asked the usual questions, and they did not come to they kept saying that, an officer will be at your house to file a missing persons report. An officer didn't show up to my house until 9:45 p.m.
Oh my goodness.
So almost, it's like 8 hours later,
That's
over
ridiculous.
almost 9 hours later, um,
I'm
that
so sorry.
officer showed up to my house. And it was very frustrating because even though we live in Fort Worth, she still went to school in Arlington, and talking to her friends and her cousin, like, hey, do you know where she could be? it was very frustrating because they would, give us names and, oh yes, they live over here. But Arlington could not do an attempt to locate because she was not in the missing person system yet. So I drove to the Arlington police station. I tried to file a report there. They wouldn't do it because she went missing out of Fort Worth. And then I would tell them, like, her cousin thinks she could be here. And they said, we can't do an attempt to locate because she's not an official missing person. We have to wait for Fort Worth to put that information into their system. So yeah, and so then I started driving around to all of the Fort Worth police stations, just hoping there was an officer so I could do a report in person. And they kept saying that the stations aren't manned. There's nobody there. And
Really?
so
Okay.
there's nobody there. And so I would call the non-emergency number. I probably called that number, I don't know, like 20 times that day, asking, can an officer meet me at the police station so I can do this report? And they just kept saying no, that you have to wait for the officer to go to your home. We can't have an officer meet you. And
Jodie, is this something that you hear a lot with the police just not even showing up?
Yeah. Sad to say that's, what you hear more often than not. There's a lot of flaws in the system, right? There's a lot of flaws to how somebody, when they're in that panic and crisis mode, it's really hard to navigate the process of filing a missing persons report, understanding how you do that. I've mentioned this to Samantha before, how, we're not prepared to do that. That's
No.
something you don't think you're going to have to do. And we've seen that, and we do a lot of education on this, on the crisis that we manage or we combat. And we always tell people that with every case, it's been different. Every case we've seen a
Okay.
different way how a report is taken. We've been told you can call 911 to file a report. And then somebody calls and that doesn't work. They're told to call the missing persons unit. And those departments are usually very understaffed. Heavy caseload per the people that are working in major cities like Dallas and Fort Worth. You would assume that there were more people in these departments, but they're very
Yeah.
understaffed.
I mean, when she said the departments weren't manned, I'm just like, it's Fort Worth. It's,
Yeah,
we're not
yeah.
talking some little bitty town.
Yeah, and like I said, like when you're in that panic mode, you're thinking things are supposed to happen quicker. We know time is of the
Yeah.
essence, when it comes to somebody missing, and you would assume there's clearer answers, a clearer chain of command for things, a clearer process that everybody is on the same page about. But I have yet to see that happen.
Oh,
I have yet to
man.
see what we're told. That's how it's going to work. And
Okay.
like I mentioned, every case has been different.
Okay.
If it's time wise, if it's the actual process, if or when, just like Samantha said, Arlington Police Department couldn't do anything until something is done, and that's
Yeah.
how you can't utilize NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, until you have a missing persons case number.
Right.
That's the way with a lot of foundations. So groups like ours, we know that, and we know, like, oh, we need to call this person immediately. But I've seen it, too often. We're waiting for that case number.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's vital, and like I said, the system is flawed and it can be very, very slow.
And I wanted to point out to everybody tonight that the picture above Samantha with Sarah doing the peace sign, that was the last picture that Samantha got to take of Sarah and her sister. So that's an important picture to her because they were having fun that night. Um, but Samantha, after the police got there, what happened? What was their attitude with you?
It was very just, it was just like they were just like another work day to them. It was just, they just took her basic information and they just said, okay, well, we'll put her in the system as a missing person and a detective will contact you tomorrow. I had her, I had her phone. I mean, not her phone. I had her an old phone that she had, and I had an iPad. I had a Kindle. I'm just like, oh, like, do you need these? Like take these with you. So crack them open, whatever you guys do. And then he's like, oh
Yeah.
no, I don't need those. Those can stay here with you. So I was kind of confused. And he just said, your detective will go over everything tomorrow. So I was really confused about that. But my main thing was, and I had asked him, I said, how soon does she go in the system? Because I'm trying to get to Arlington. I'm trying to do an attempt to locate in Arlington, and they won't do it unless she is in the system as a missing person. And he said, oh, it goes in immediately. It goes in immediately. As soon as I type this up, I guess with the computers they have in their cars, he goes, it'll go in immediately. So as soon as the police officer left, we were maybe like not even a minute behind him, and he was gone. And I was like, didn't he just say he was gonna start putting her in the system while he's in his car? Like, he's already gone. But I was just like, whatever, like we gotta get over here to Arlington, because we knew a street and we just did not know which house.
Okay.
And so we were trying to narrow that down. And we just couldn't, Arlington just couldn't do anything until she was in the system. So we get to Arlington, we get to the street. I call them. I have, I've already reported it. This is my report number. They give you that card.
Okay.
And the police officer again said, she's still not in the system. So that was very frustrating. And at this time, because her cousin, they're at the same age, and she knew like who her friends were. She was able to tell us like what the house looked like. So at that time, now we have the police there, but we just can't, the house that we think it is, we can't do anything. We can't go in. But and then Arlington told me, like, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and knock. Like, we're not going to wait for Fort Worth to put her in the database as a missing person. We're just going to go ahead and do it. And they did. They knocked on 2 houses that night, and she wasn't there. The people who we thought she was with and the names we gave them, they were like, no, that person doesn't live here. Nobody lives here by that name. We would show them pictures of Sarah. Like, no, I've never seen her. So that night, that was the first day that, just,
Okay.
I mean, 8 hours was just waiting for the police officer to show up. I
I'm
feel like
so sorry that you had to deal with that.
yeah, I feel like, we wasted a whole day because Fort Worth was just dragging their feet. And I don't understand, you know, Fort Worth is a huge city. And
Yes.
you're telling me one cop couldn't come over within the hour? Like, what the heck were y'all doing all day?
Yeah. So
Not,
did the detective show up the next day?
no, he was actually on vacation. He called me. And
They gave you the only detective they could give you was the guy on vacation.
yes,
Okay.
yes. The detective, Eric Martinez, he is still her detective. Um, so the next morning, I was calling the missing persons phone number for Fort Worth, trying to figure out, has she been entered in the system, and just trying to figure out who my detective is. That's how I
Okay.
found out he was on vacation, because whoever answers that phone or sits at that desk for that missing persons number, he just said, well, you know, he is going to call you. He will call you sometime today. He's just on vacation right now. So he eventually called me,
Okay.
and he basically said that was the first time that I heard Fort Worth declare her as an adult, and said that, well, she's an adult. She's 17. Legally, she's an adult. And this is going to be an adult runaway case. We're not going to investigate. And so I didn't,
Okay.
I was
She's
kind of shocked.
she's 17. She cannot drink. She cannot vote. She can't get married without parental permission. That doesn't sound like an adult to me. Those, an adult can do those things.
Right.
But in
So,
Texas, they can't if you're 17.
exactly. So, of course I fought back, and what do you mean? She's not an adult. She just turned 17. She's barely 17 for 2 months. And he actually hung up on me.
Oh my lord.
Yes. So I, just kind of was going through the whole list of, you know, that she's missing, and, this is not like her. This has never happened before. And he just kept saying, there's nothing I can do. And he was just like, do you think, he kept saying, like, well, would she be a danger to herself or to other people? And she has dealt with things in her past that I said, yeah, I think she could be a danger to herself. And I told him the reasons why. And he said, well, has anything recent happened? And I said, no. I said, the most recent would be maybe about a year, maybe 2 years. Well, yeah. So because nothing recent has happened, she's not a danger to herself.
Oh
So I
my
just
goodness.
said, okay. And he just said, okay. And then the phone hung up. No, I'm sorry. No, I'll follow up with you. No, let me know if you hear anything. I just said, okay. And he just said, okay. And then the phone hung up. And I was shocked. Like, eyes got big. Like, did he just hang up the phone? Like, that was my exact, uh, like, expression. Like, like, it was 1 minute I was like this, and I was like, I'm like, and because of course my family hears me, where, now I'm at my dad's house, and I'm just like, he just hung up the phone. Like, are you serious? Like, it was shocking.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, so the next day, that's when he told me that she was an adult and she ran away, and she's not a danger to herself or other people. So,
Oh, so he's a doctor too.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, that did they do anything for you?
No, they still have not done anything. Um,
How did you find out about the video of the neighborhood?
so that same day that she went missing, we went on our video and you see someone across the street pacing, like they're walking back and forth between the two houses across the street from mine. They're walking back and forth.
Okay.
And we knew the lady across the street, we knew she had cameras. Um, and so I went over across the street and asked her if she could look at her cameras and gave her my number. And she called me and she said, "Hey, yes, there is a man on my camera at 3:20 in the morning." So I went outside and we went to her house and she showed me a couple of videos. They're all the same. It's mainly just him walking. The one that's posted is the most clear one. Um, and we compared it to our video of that same man pacing back and forth. And it's at the same exact time. And we feel this man is the man that Sarah left with because Sarah's location goes off 7 minutes later that video was taken. So
But you don't see Sarah go meet him, right?
no, so Sarah never appears on any video, not the video from the front of our house and not the neighbor's video of looking. And she's not directly in front of us either. She's actually the third house down and we're the second house. So we're
Okay.
kind of like that.
Catty cornered from each other, kind of.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's why that's how we got that video. I knew she had cameras. We were looking at our cameras. We went around to our neighbors to see if they captured anything on their cameras, and you don't see her at all. But I just
So
think that
you have no idea if she left with him willingly or if she could have climbed out her window to go meet up with someone and it went badly. There's no way of knowing what happened.
right. There's no way of knowing. We don't know. We just know she went out her window. I don't know if she went out with the intentions of coming back.
Now here's a picture that I did take from your TV interview you did, and that's all it shows of the guy. It's not like you can get a description. You can tell it's a dude, but that's it.
Yeah, he's wearing a hat. He's wearing a jacket.
But
He's
being in
got
front
the
of somebody's
phone.
house at 3:20 in the morning is odd.
Oh yeah, very odd. And again, this happened during winter break. So once we hired our private investigation team, we live near a school. And once school opened back up, they were very nice to let our PI team look at their cameras that night from their school cameras. And you can see a black SUV, but it's dark and you cannot make out a plate.
Okay.
And so leaving our neighborhood, there are some pretty big intersections. So we had tried to get Fort Worth PD to look at the traffic cameras to see if they see a black SUV, leaving at around the same time of night. But they told us no, that they wouldn't that they wouldn't look at the traffic cameras, because in order to do that, you need a warrant. And in order to get a warrant, there has to be criminal activity. And there's no proof of criminal activity the night that Sara left.
And there's no proof there isn't.
Exactly. There's no proof that there isn't.
It's a catch
And
22 there.
it's up to me to find the proof, basically, is what the last conversation that I had.
So you're paying taxes to do your own detective work.
Right. Right.
Okay. That that's terrible. Did they at least take her phone and her, her electronics?
No, let me put it to you like this. I've never seen her detective in person. No matter how many times I have gone to that office, he's never there. They've never asked for her iPad. We had a Kindle that she had, and we have an old cell phone. Now, she did take her current cell phone, but
it got turned off right away.
Right. We got turned off. The only officer that I've seen is the night that the officer came to my house to do the missing persons report. And he was only here for 5 minutes. All he did was get the information and say, okay, well, a detective will reach out to you tomorrow. And
right. Did you go through her laptop? Were you able to get into it?
It's locked. It's locked, and we're not able to unlock it. Our PI team can reset it, but if it's locked, it's just locked.
Yeah, you don't want to lose the information that's in there.
Right. So, and she's the only one that had like an Apple product. All of our phones are Samsung, and like even right now I'm on a Chromebook. That whenever we got her the iPad for her birthday, I never thought to ask like what her Apple ID is. So without her Apple ID, I can't really use her iPad for anything. I can't unlock it. I have the proof of purchase. I got that. But without her Apple ID, I can't really take it a step further.
Okay.
We have part of it. Our private investigation team was able to get part of it, but then it asterisks out the last part of her Apple ID.
Oh, okay.
So, and from what I'm being told is technology to like crack all that stuff open. It's very expensive, and two, it's usually only available to law enforcement.
And this is a child. I don't care what they say. This is a child who loves to read, who left her iPad and her Kindle behind. Did she take any clothes with her?
She did. Her school backpack is not here.
Okay.
As far as clothes, if she took any clothes, she didn't take much.
Did she use her backpack like a purse?
No, it was just her school backpack, and her school backpack's not here, and her makeup's not here.
Okay. So had she talked about meeting anybody new or talking to anyone on the internet?
She did. She talked to her friends about talking to an older guy, on the internet, and my guess is that he came to pick her up, and I think it's the guy in the video.
So it's a situation where she could have just even gone out to get dressed up to meet someone and didn't realize it was going to turn into something else where she didn't get to go home.
Right. Or, I mean, it's talking to somebody online, going to their house to pick them up. I mean, in the middle of the night, that's a predator.
Yeah,
And you don't go in the middle of the night to pick up a young girl
no.
and then bring her back, but to bring her back the next day. You know, that person, we don't know what they were planning. We don't even know if she's still with this person. And which
Yeah,
makes me
because
believe she could very much be sex trafficked right now.
look at that young 15-year-old from Utah. She had like 3 different guys she was messaging on an old iPad that her parents didn't even know she had anymore. So she wasn't using current, you know, um, electronics. She used something older that nobody would look at. So the fact that the police want to act like she's an adult and she's not in trouble, they have no reason to base that on.
Right.
Because this reminds me of the Kramer case in 2022, where she followed the guy out to the parking lot because she was a little had anxiety and thought he had some marijuana, or as Doc likes to say, the devil's lettuce, and was going to take a hit or two, but she wasn't allowed to leave, and they took her.
Right.
So, you know, that's when children make dumb mistakes because they think, oh, I'm going to go meet someone. Someone's telling me I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm an adult, and they believe it. And then they get into a situation they can't get out of.
Exactly. And it's very scary because you don't know where your kid is at. You don't she she hasn't reached out. Her social media, some of her stuff was deactivated. Some of her pages are not, but there's no activity. Um, I just feel like she would reach out to somebody if she had the chance,
Right.
even if it wasn't to me. Like, she has friends. They check in on me every now and then just to see how
So
I'm
she,
doing.
so she had a social circle that she was close with,
She had a
and her
very
cousins, right?
Right. She had a very small like group of friends. Um, and then her cousin, they're the same age, but nobody knows. I mean, I asked, like, did she mention a name? Did she, but they all said, like, no, like, all she said was that she was just talking to some guy online. But the app is called Yubo,
Yubo.
but
That's
we're
one I
not,
have not heard of.
able to get like a username or anything like that. I really feel like she was definitely like manipulated and almost like coached what to do. Like, oh, like somebody was telling her like what to do whenever she leaves,
Right.
like
Well,
deactivate her social media.
we don't know if somebody was waiting outside her window either because you never saw her.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we don't know. And another thing that Fort Worth says is, because one of the things say, well, why do you think she's being trafficked? Why do you say that? And so I'm just like, because it's meeting someone online and then you don't hear from them for 6 months. Like, what do you think? And it's just like, well, do you have proof? Like, how am I supposed to find proof that she's being trafficked? Like, So it's like,
Right.
so then you don't know. And it's just so,
Okay.
and I
Ra-
even asked,
Racy just told me she's going to ask her friend Chong. Chong actually was trafficked and is a big advocate and 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 is involved in helping women that are trafficked. So she'll ask her about this app and any information that Chong might have too, to
yeah,
help. I know Jodie, you've probably dealt with this before, with these young girls that unfortunately someone compliments them online, makes them think they're adults, and they get into trouble that they're not old enough to figure that this is
Yeah.
just not a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we with our organization, we always ask, like, um, when once they're labeled a runaway, a minor or an adult, we always ask, like, why did they run? What were they running from? Things like that.
Right.
And in some situations, you can kind of tell, like, okay, maybe they were dealing with this or that. You don't get that with Sarah. You don't get
No.
that. And in some cases you really do. And you really do see quickly that um dealing with, some really low self-esteem because of bullying or situations at home, were unsafe. And that's why somebody might choose to that's a big leap from, to choose that the streets are safer than your home. That's a
Right.
really big leap in somebody's normal activity. And that's always a big red flag, like when you don't find that puzzle piece happening in a home, you really do start to look at, were they groomed in some way? Were they coached in some kind of way? Especially that young, you know, female, that age, her size, her look, things like that. These are things that
Yeah,
that
because she's
that
tiny. She's what,
yeah,
5'2" and 100 pounds?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and she's a beautiful young girl, and
Yes.
you know, um, within a lot of like indigenous American Indian and even the, like Mexican Latino community, like when you are you're brown, you're pretty, you can be passed off as different
E-
ethnicities. And that's,
exotic.
yeah, for that exotic look is very desirable by somebody
Yeah.
that sees young people as a, to make profit. um
Yes.
and so, we look at things like that. And yeah, we always have to look at the situation. And like I said, like we don't have those red flags for Sarah. And
Yeah.
so, it's, ultimately, your mind and your heart does jump to there's something else that kept her from coming home. Like, we've worked cases. One of the first cases that I worked, yes, she was a runaway. She had run away before, but there was more to it that time. There was video, footage and store workers seeing that she had got abducted after the fact. So these
Right.
things happen. It's not that somebody just left to leave.
I
You
agree
know,
with you, Jody. I think that's why Eric Martinez, the Barney Fife of detectives in Fort Worth, is not looking at the whole issue here,
uh,
because a young girl can go out to meet someone,
yeah,
she's gotten impressed, okay? She didn't come home. Why didn't she come home? And I don't care if Sarah ran away 5 times. She's still a child. She could still be in danger, because sometimes I look at that case we had here in Houston of and her name just escapes me, but the young 12-year-old that got up and decided to take a walk in the middle of the night, and she ended up not ever coming home because she was
and
taken, and they
in the
harmed
state
her.
of Texas, 17 is an adult, but yet, still, you know, if Sarah didn't go to school, Samantha can go to truancy court. So,
Yeah.
like, it's like, how does that work? How does
Yeah.
that work that she's a junior in high school and she can still get in trouble for skipping school, but she's an adult
Well,
in this
and she
case?
can't drink. She
Yeah.
can't
So
vote.
that's
So,
that's definitely something that not only our organization, any organization or foundation or any entity that helps families in this kind of crisis, like they deal with those issues. They're they're an adult. They made up their mind. They did this willingly, but this picture that is painted, with Sarah leaving is it doesn't show that she was leaving for good, that she didn't
no.
want to return, things like that. Like that's not there, and it's really frustrating that we're here to support these families and be an advocate, but and I've mentioned this about Sarah's case. Her family has been one of the most proactive families that we've ever worked with. They've done everything they needed to do,
Right.
everything in a timely manner, everything in a respectful manner, everything they needed to do. Um, Yet nothing, and we can't get the same the same respect from the folks that are supposed to be helping. They're not
Right.
doing everything they need to. So this is one of the most frustrating situations I think we've dealt with too. Just seeing all the flaws in the system, and that it's appears to be okay. That
Yeah.
there's no there's no follow up. There's no follow through. There's no any of that. We understand that a uniform comes to do the report, the very quick report.
Right.
We understand that sometimes it takes a little time to get a detective on the case, and we understand caseloads and things like that, understaffing, things like that. But this is just beyond all of that. This is,
Well,
almost
this sounds
beyond
like some
compare.
kind of a circus. That doesn't sound like a police department.
Yeah. And there are questions that, very simple questions, that aren't being answered, like, things that we help families with is like, asking if, have they been entered in, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children? Have they been entered into NAMUS, NCIC? These
Yeah,
things are
she's
things
not
that,
in NamUs
like, these are things that they can do,
yeah,
and immediately, you know, um,
because
NCIC.
I contacted NamUs today, and I asked them. I said, "Why, can't a parent get their child in?" And I was told that no, you have to have the report number, and you have to have the police department's permission.
Yeah, so there are you can input, and it's like if somebody outside law enforcement does, then law enforcement kind of takes over.
Yeah.
It's worked for me once with the case, and that's kind of what happened. Is that once I did get something inputted, then I saw updates and edits from law enforcement. So it is on them to do these things, and like NCIC, you're supposed to, that has totally helped us clear a case before. Is that
Yeah.
somebody's in there and they were contacted and they were deemed, of sound mind, and they weren't um, committing a crime, anything like that, but there was contact made. And
Well,
so,
don't they
law
have a
enforcement can
law
put that
here in
in.
Texas that Joseph and oh, what's it called? That they're supposed to use NamUs.
Like that's everywhere too. These things are there's a flow to when a case happens, when a
Right.
case happens and there's a missing persons report number, you can refer to it. There's a flow to it. There should be, this should happen a weekend, 2 weeks, whatever, 30 days. There are these markers that you're supposed to, things should be happening, and everything was just a standstill. Once we were contacted, I was thinking like they've done everything. Like what is going on? Why is it just stalled out? Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Because I just, they didn't get a search warrant or an administrative warrant for the electronics. And I cannot imagine a judge would not have given them that because the girl disappeared. She has not been heard from. She, might have had issues a few years ago. So yes, there could be an issue. Let's unlock things and double check. Let's make sure it's okay. I don't see where a judge would have told them there's not enough here.
Yeah, and I don't see my one of my biggest things was, even as just a nonprofit grassroots organization, we our intake felt to be even more, extensive than what their interaction was with law enforcement. The questions we
Yeah.
asked, these things, these questions are there for a reason. It paints a picture of not only Sarah in that moment, but leading up to it. We ask about, we ask the uncomfortable questions.
Yeah.
And with any case, a family, we tell family members, this can be uncomfortable, but this is going to be helpful. We can ask from drug use to mental health. Are they a sex worker? Are they in active addiction? Are they off meds? These
Right.
things help. And when you understand somebody's, if they're dealing with depression, anxiety, these are things that should point to different avenues, different ways of how you're going to do this search. And it's just not
How to
happening.
approach it.
Yeah.
It gives you an idea of how to approach. And that's one thing I explained to Samantha, Jodie, is our community here that we're developing with the trial junkies and the truth seekers and justice warriors. We do not blame victims. I don't care if someone is a sex worker. I don't care if they have drug issues. That doesn't allow someone else to hurt them.
Yeah,
That
that's
doesn't
exactly what.
allow for them to be taken,
Yeah,
especially with the
that
Native and
organization
Indigenous
helps us.
community. So many people do not know the history that may cause someone to reach out for drugs or addictions. We talk a lot about child predators on Sunday nights too, and with some of our other friends on other channels. And once someone's been scarred by a predator, sometimes they do things that it doesn't make sense to us, but in their mind it does, and we can't blame them for that. They
Yeah,
still need to be taken seriously, and they need to be safe.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And like I was saying, like this is everything we try to help families understand. Is that we've worked cases where it's you know our community has so much intergenerational trauma. We work
Right.
we worked cases where
The
the
residential
teenager,
schools.
yeah, a teenager has been abducted, they've been trafficked, so has the mom, so has the grandma, so has somebody
Yeah.
else, all in a home. So, and that's, I don't know if that I can just say it's just uniquely, us as Native people in our history in this country, but it's very real. All of the contributing factors that lead to somebody um, leaving home. And
Yeah.
and I don't want to say running away, because sometimes they're not running away. Sometimes they're in a
Yeah.
state of mind where they're fleeing their feelings and not feeling not fleeing an unsafe situation.
Well,
There are a lot
she
of
could have
things.
also just been going to meet someone. It
Yeah,
didn't. She might not have had no intention of ever permanently leaving. It could have just been, I'm going to go meet this person and just have a fun day, and I just don't want mom to meet him. You
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. All of these scenarios I have played out in my head. Like maybe maybe he was her age. Maybe they were sneaking out. Maybe all of these things. And like knowing like she just took her makeup bag and like a different pair of shoes and a jacket. These things are like, I don't see the intention of not returning. You
Yeah,
know, I just
all
I
of
just
her
don't.
clothes are here.
Yeah, like
And
I just don't see that. And
And
yeah, it's just
Samantha, you're right, because if she would have left, she would have taken like her favorite jeans or her favorite shirt or a favorite coat, or you would have noticed the things that she probably would have taken.
right, and it was just Christmas time. All of her clothes that she had just got for Christmas, and Sarah's got a lot of clothes. They were all still in her closet. All of her jeans were still in her closet. That's why, and it's so hard with teenage girls. Like, you don't keep an inventory on how many shirts and jeans they have. But whenever you have an idea, because you do their laundry. So it's just like, well, like
Right.
if she did pack clothes, I would say like like two pairs of pants at the most. All of her jeans are still hanging up. All of her brand new clothes that she got from Christmas are hanging up.
I would
Um,
have, if she would have left for a permanent reason, she would have taken some of her new stuff. I mean, wouldn't most kids do that?
Yeah, I would think so. Like, they were all clothes that she loved and she was happy that she got. And I don't I don't know. I don't It's been too long and it's been too silent. Something is happening to her. And I don't maybe it started off as, like a meeting a friend, but
Yeah,
I don't think it's friendly anymore. I really feel like she is in trouble,
right.
and you just your mind just thinks all the bad things. Because it's like, if she was okay, why hasn't she called? Why hasn't she said, "Mom, I'm okay. You know, I just needed some time, but I'm fine." Like,
Yeah,
why hasn't she said that? If she had the opportunity to call anyone, not even if she didn't want to call me, she
because
knows her
she took her cell
words.
phone. She
Exactly. She
took
took her
her
cell
cell
phone.
phone.
If she had the opportunity to call anyone, she would have called somebody by now. And no one has heard from her. We have messaged her on social media. There has been no activity. She's just gone. And
And there's no way
Sarah's
for you to get the records of her phone,
yes,
even
there's no way for me to get the records of her
even
phone.
when you pay for the phone.
Oh, that's another thing. So up here we have it's called Cricket Wireless. It's kind of like a budget
Uh-huh.
friendly,
Yeah.
cell phone plan. Um, because they are a prepaid service, you pay every month. They like kind of like you pay as you go. They do not keep phone records or text messaging records,
Oh,
but the police department can look up anyone's phone records. Um, so when I asked, can we get her phone records? They said no, and because she's an adult and it would be an invasion of her privacy. So I said, the account is in my name. Like, it's technically my phone number. It's my name on the account. That phone number belongs to me, not Sarah. But they said that because it belongs to her phone that I paid for, it's an invasion of her privacy to look up her phone records
oh.
because she's an adult. So
Jody, is there any way to get around that?
I mean, I always feel like, it's really a matter of who you're working with, and
Yeah.
their scope, their lens on what they're dealing with, like understanding, okay, yeah, maybe she's 17, maybe in the state of Texas she's an adult, but if you have somebody that is listening to the family, they're going to see that, like, okay, she doesn't pay her bill, she's only a junior in high school, she's this or that, or looking at her mental health and looking at that deeper, and that needs to be considered, like
Right.
there are things that, her mental health could put her in danger in different ways. And so I feel like looking at the whole story, if you have the right person, they're gonna order a forensic scan of the phone, to get those things. They're gonna, we hear things like they can only ping a phone if they're in danger, and we're like, we don't know if somebody's in danger. Why not just do it? And so there's
Yeah.
always those scenarios of, well, this, but then you're like, on the flip side, you can explain it where, okay, we just answered that, yes, this is happening, like, you know she's a child, she's not with me, she's in danger, this is totally out of the norm for her, and but it's not happening here. You just don't get, and you can talk to social media corporations, you can talk, get these, and they can take a really
Yeah.
long time depending on law enforcement and how they're willing to back up your need for that. It really falls on the people that are assigned to these cases and what they're willing to agree with, what they're willing, how hard they're willing to work, things like that. Like, It's just a lot of questions all the time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because if they're not putting forth any effort, then nobody else is going to jump on the ship to do anything. And you can't get a different detective, can you? Can you ask for a new detective?
Um, I
I feel
haven't
like,
really seen that happen.
yeah, I feel like um, I remember asking this question a long time ago, and I cannot remember what they said. Um, I do remember asking, and I do remember them telling me no, and I can't remember why. Because I actually went to internal affairs about it was January 2nd because her detective was not doing anything. He wasn't even returning my phone calls. And I went to internal affairs to see if I could talk to somebody higher up. And I did. I talked to Detective Jessica Wright, who listened to me, and um, I gave her. So I actually ended up, because in these crisis situations, you first thing you hear is start making a timeline. So I started making a timeline and I made a whole packet of everything that has to do with Sarah, all of her social media, her birthmarks, her every single thing a detective needs to know about my kid, as well as the timeline starting from the day that I went into her room and her window was open.
Right.
Um, the whole first 2 weeks are detailed with times. What time I kept a notebook and wrote down what time I did certain things. And so in that notebook, I met with Jessica Wright on January 2nd, and I gave her the packet that I had made and the timeline that I had up until then. And she listened. I actually thought she was going to do something because she was talking about, figuring out who his sergeant was. So
Okay.
I was very hopeful that something was going to happen. But she ended up calling a couple days later and saying that, unfortunately, because in the state of Texas, she's an adult, um, she's just considered an adult runaway. So that was what I've got from internal affairs. I remember asking her about a different detective. I cannot remember exactly what she told me, but I knew the answer. It was pretty much a no. You can't get another detective.
Yeah.
And
But you had to ask. I mean,
right, because I was like, this, he's not doing anything. He
no.
really still hasn't done anything. Fort Worth Police hasn't done anything at all to
Yeah,
try
I
to.
called him several times. He won't return my calls either.
Yeah, he doesn't return my calls either, and um, he we've had several different people call him. So if anything, I just feel like he's annoyed. Like they're calling me about that girl again. Like I feel like, dang, dude, like if you've got multiple people calling about this particular case, do
Get
the
off your
mom a
bum.
solid and be like, hey, okay, let me look up her phone records for you. Like
Yeah.
something. But I think he's just annoyed. And every single person that has reached out to him, it's always, he never called me back. I never heard back from him. So, and I'm just like, I'm I'm like part of his caseload and he doesn't even return my calls. So yeah,
Yeah.
I totally expect that from him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if at what point that would be helpful to get a new detective in that same department or that same unit within that police department, like,
That's true.
yeah, because I mean, there are so many, like I said, there are so many missing persons unit that are understaffed, crazy caseloads, things like that. So I feel like at some point in the work, you kind of, just kind of commiserate over over these things. And I'm sure everyone in that department knows. So it's like, do you want somebody in that same department, that may be the same exact way? So it's like, it's, you just don't know what to do at times. It's like, how do you remedy that situation when you feel like the whole department is dealing with the same almost the same work ethic?
Yeah. Oh,
Well, I know this may sound simplistic, but how? What have the news stations said? Anything at all? I mean, are they willing to pursue this at all, or?
So we've had one local news station cover it earlier on when I started helping, and it was very very basic of the story, things like that, of because it was a very short piece, um, and there were a few I can remember seeing online, things of um, people frustrated with the Fort Worth Police Department, hearing
Mm-hmm.
how things were handled up to that point. There was another news station that did a very in-depth story, um, and I mean, interviewed three of us. Were at a flyer distribution. Were in the car with us when we were, going out putting flyers out, and of course, doing the due diligence of a journalist. They're calling these people. They're calling, the police department, and nothing really matched up. It was like if um, the story that we were telling was not, it's like if it wasn't true. And they were kind of um, saying, basically saying, that, oh, that's not the case. This is really what's happening. And it was just, I was blown away at, the response of, of what the law enforcement was saying when the journalist was
Well, I
asking.
would be too. I mean,
They
that's
told the journalist that they have a video of Sarah packing a bag before she left.
how?
Exactly. So the journalist reached out to me and said, they said they have a video of Sarah packing a bag and that she was leaving. And I just said, really? Because
I would have asked her, did you see the video, honey?
Yeah. Did you see it? Because I haven't.
exactly. So he didn't see a video, but they told him that. And I just said, it's not true. That how would I don't have cameras inside my house. I have one camera outside. um, so so after they spoke to they didn't speak to Eric Martinez. They spoke to whoever handles their media department.
Okay.
I actually asked. I had a recent phone call with Eric Martinez, maybe about like a month and a half ago, asking, "Did you tell them that there's a video of Sarah packing a bag?" And he's just like, I don't talk to media. I don't talk to media." So I just said, okay, well, are you aware of any video of Sarah packing a bag? And he just said, no. I have the whole conversation recorded. So, and
Yeah.
which I told the journalist, like, well, I asked him straight up about this video of Sarah packing a bag. And he's saying that he's never seen a video of such thing. But that's what they're telling the journalists who, we're trying so hard to get her on news media, and it's almost like Fort Worth is just trying to stomp on it.
Well, Pammy, you're getting a lot of support in our chat. Pammy's daughter also has a channel, and so she sent me some information, and I'll be getting that to you. I'm going to reach out to some more people that have channels, and we're going to see if what we can do to get you more publicity. Um, we'll see if we can get this thing to blow up, because let's say for in some crazy world Sarah walked away. Okay, she walked away. Sarah, we just want you to come home. We want you to contact your mom. Just call your mom and tell her you're safe.
Right.
But it doesn't look like that. This looks like she went out to meet someone and was not allowed to come back. So we're going, to me, that's a girl that's in trouble. And so as a community here, Lorelei, Alaskan Avenger to the rescue. Okay. We have friends that they're putting the word out to other YouTubers too that they know. Um, so we will try and get you, like I said, more publicity. I have another friend who actually that I've made acquaintances with. I mean, we're not friends, but we're acquaintances. But she does Zone 7, and she's very, very famous person. So I will try and get a hold of her. Um, we're gonna work this. Racy has sent me a message in Messenger, probably about her friend Chong, who also deals with this. So we're gonna try and get you and Sarah as much publicity as we possibly can because this story needs to be told. Um, you know,
And we have, um, we just want as much publicity, exposure, um, as possible because someone has to know something, and we're doing everything we can just to get her face and her name out there. There is a $10,000 reward
right?
for anyone who has information that can lead us to her. I don't know if she's crossed paths with anybody who may say, "Hey, I think I saw that girl. She was hanging out with such and such over here." I mean, we have a tip line. I urge people to call the tip line. Even though Fort Worth PD information is on there,
Yeah.
don't call them.
Call
Just
Blackfish Intelligence. Their
yes,
number is 1-800-403-8024. Let's get that number out there, guys. It's Blackfish Intelligence. That's the investigative agency. 1-800-403-8024. They need tips. Someone has seen her. Um, we need to get some tips into them so that they can act on them because right now things are kind of at a standstill. Um,
I
so
admit that our tip line it's so quiet. Every now and then you get a possible, I think I saw her here. They will go out, even if it's somewhere near me. I've left and gone out to see if it's her. We thought she was at a hotel here in Arlington. I left work. I was actually on my lunch break and got a tip and just went to the hotel and we called Arlington. It wasn't her. Um, so it's just any tip that comes in is fully investigated. They will
right.
look at cameras if there's a gas station in the area and they say, "Oh, I think we saw her walking." The first thing they're going to do is look for gas station cameras, store cameras, any kind of surveillance to try to
Um,
match it to her.
you also can go right to their website, which is blackfishintel.com, and you can report it there if you don't want to call. You can remain anonymous. You don't have to use your name, but they need tips. She may have changed her hair color. The length could be changed, but Doc, you got the wrong picture up, Sweet Pea. That's one of our other missing girls. Her and her
Mm-hmm.
baby have disappeared, so we need to find her too. But you know, like I'm always telling you, everybody, when you're out and about, if you're at an event, put your cell phones down, look around. Any big event, Any big event. Sturgis is coming up in South Dakota. There will probably be Lakota women that are being, or children or boys being trafficked up there. We have to be alert. Any event, any football game, golf game, anything like that where people can harm, women by making money off of them. You have to be alert. So look around. If you see something, say something. You know, on the flyer, you know, you can I have it posted in the pictures, but it's also on Facebook. There is a Q code, and that is for the GoFundMe because keeping an investigative team that she's having to pay for, she needs help, people. If you can donate even just a little bit, please do, because Sarah needs to be found. This girl would have called home eventually if she had gone on her if she had done this freely, totally of her free will. She either would have called home, she would have called a cousin, she would have called someone to say, hey, tell mom I'm fine, you know, but
She
she
wouldn't leave her
hasn't.
little sister like
Yeah.
this. She would have reached out by now to her. I can't imagine Sarah willingly being this gone away from her little sister. I mean, they were, even though they had an age gap, they're so close, and I don't think she could go this long if she had the ability to talk to her.
Yeah. And one thing you have to realize, sadly, is that these kind of predators will threaten these girls with, I'll harm your family, I'll harm your little sister. Those are some of the threats that they use. And, a girl that loves her family and loves her sister, they're not going, to rock the boat. But she has to realize that she has one strong mama that is coming for her. She wants you home. And if these people have Sarah, you better watch out, because a mama bear can be more ferocious than Liam Neeson on any day of the week if she finds out who you are. Because mamas don't forget. Mamas do not forget, and they will keep looking for their daughters. This is not a child that nobody cared about. This is not what you would call a throwaway person, which, I'm sorry, even people that they consider throwaways aren't. They still have family out there somewhere that cares. But from their standpoint, they like to tag people as, well, nobody will look for them. This was a young lady that had a family. She was in a house full of family the night before, having a great time. You picked the wrong child. And I mean that word, child.
Yes,
And
we're ready. We're ready to go wherever we need to. We just need that one piece of information.
you just
And
need a direction.
yes, you don't
Oh,
really realize how big the world is until your child is lost in it. So I think that's the hardest part. I just need to know, like you said, I point me in a direction and we'll
right,
be there.
right. Racy sent me some information, and I'm going to get it to you on some different things to do. I don't know if she got a hold of Chong to give you some tips. Did Sarah have any access to a Cash App?
She did, but her Cash App card is here.
Okay.
I found it while we were going through her room. It's here at home.
Yeah. And that's another thing, Jodie. I'm sure you've had to explain to parents how to go through a room before to look for and for because kids can get pretty good at hiding stuff. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to cover everything. You have to cover, like things like that, like the money apps, all of the apps, all of the the ones everybody knows and all of the dangerous ones. You have to, talk about these things and talk about um things to look for, like, drugs, medication, anything that can help you understand what they might have been dealing with. Um
Right.
yeah, there's so much to what families find and discover afterwards. Once somebody's gone, like it's just like it's a constant kind of you unravel something, you unravel things to learn about your loved one.
Right. And that's something to think about. I took a PI class, and I was looking into becoming a PI ancient years ago because my community knows I won't tell my age. So, but I remember them talking about, how you search a room, the places you look that you might not think about, if there are air vents, you unscrew things, you look in because kids can be tricky, especially if, they think they're hiding stuff, and unfortunately we have these predators that are getting online and reaching out to our kids, and we got to stop it. We got to stop it. Okay, Matt, I will post a flyer in our Discord. We have a Discord chat. I'll send you both a link if you want to join, you can. He's a first responder. He's out in Connecticut, but he'll put it out there. Who knows? You don't know if someone takes a vacation. You don't know, wherever people are, we'll get the flyer out. We'll see
Yes,
if
I've had friends who have gone on vacation and they've taken a flyer and given it to the local police department. And my one of my family members is actually going to San Antonio this weekend, and I get asked all the time, "Can I post her flyer here? Can I post her flyer there? Can I take it there?" And I'm just like, please take it everywhere. I mean, if I could just
fill the
throw
city.
a million flyers in the air and just have it all go every direction, I wish it was that easy.
Yeah, I
Well,
think I think people tend to forget how powerful a tangible piece of paper flyer and location can be. Like, we always recommend, like all of the gas stations, all of the 24-hour spots where people go, like, to get these everywhere, with the tip or not.
right.
It may be in that area. You never know how helpful
Here in
those.
Texas, go to Bucky's.
Yes, yeah.
Cover all the Bucky's. Everybody ends up at a Bucky's in Texas.
Yeah, we tell everybody, like, even if they won't let you, like, post a flyer on the door, like, leave one with the cat at the cash register, leave one in a restroom, even if it gets thrown away, somebody might still see them, see any of these flyers and notice her.
Okay, we will definitely we'll get our community to do that for you, and we're going to keep reaching out and doing what we can. And if anyone wants to send any night, and I mean you have to be pleasant and you have to be an adult to send any correspondence to Fort Worth Detective Eric Martinez and ask him, we would like to know what is happening with the Sara Isabel Martinez case. Send some emails. I will look up information to get for our attorney general. I mean, come on, dude, get your people in order. But we're grown-ups. We do it kindly. We do it professionally. We don't get ugly and act crazy because that gets nobody nothing.
Right.
Just we'll send out something and say that we're, as a community, we are concerned and we would like to see, something done with this case. Because the more publicity, the more chance we have of somebody picking up and going, okay, I better do something.
Yes, sir. That's what I've even prayed. Like, can you just this be the day where he just wakes up and says, okay, I'm going to do something for that girl. But I mean, maybe this will be the push, more publicity, people reaching out. Maybe, maybe this can help. Maybe he'll have a change of heart. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to get a hold of tonight. I'll be emailing a few people, trying to get you some more spots, honey. And Jodie, your wisdom on this. I think Samantha needed you, and I think you have a lot of wisdom to share on this case. So we'll see if we can get you guys some more spots to talk about what's going on with Sarah, how she's not getting help. Because the Blackfish Intelligence company can only do if they get tips. And if they're not getting tips, their hands are tied because the police department will not get subpoenas. They won't delve into those things. So we need to get that done. So that's why we're going to come up with, I'll work on a letter or an email, and I'll post it in our Discord, and we'll see what we can do. Um, okay, Racy, you're funny. We get ugly. No, we don't get ugly. We're pretty. We don't do that. But we're gonna get this story out there, and we did want to make you laugh tonight, Samantha, because you've held down so much, and I know it's been tough for you. And so for all of you, Sarah is 17. She disappeared on December 29th, 2024 at 3:27 a.m. Fort Worth, Texas. She's 5'2", 100 pounds. She wears glasses, has medium length black hair with purple highlights. I'm really digging this girl. A pierced right nostril, a birthmark on her left calf. She has some scars on her wrists and thighs. The reward is $10,000. Blackfish Intelligence is 1-800-403-8024, or go to blackfishintel.com. They have a form you can fill out. We're going to skip Fort Worth, please. I just don't care. The case number is 240-102570. Keep that case number, 240-102570.
And if you
That's the
miss this,
information.
we will be putting it in the description of this.
Yeah. He'll put it in the description. I'll put it on my Facebook page. I'll put it in our Discord. I've already put stuff on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram. So please, everybody, flood it. If you want to share what I've already posted, or create some of your own stuff, let's do it. Let's flood this place, because Sarah needs to be brought home. Sarah needs to be found.
Thank you.
Jodie's right. This is not the normal situation of a young girl that had her mind set on, I'm taking off. You know, I think she got flattered by somebody, and things just did not go accordingly. So let's help her. Let's help Samantha. Jodie, anytime you have a case that you want publicity for, or you think there's a family that needs help, we're here for you. You know, we don't have a problem jumping in. Thursdays is always devoted to Native and Indigenous, because they don't get enough publicity. Sunday, we do predators, we do cold cases, trials, all sorts of stuff. But Thursdays is devoted to our Native and Indigenous communities and First Nations, because we visit Canada, because we need answers. We're all part of the human family. We need to care about each other. Right now, the world's kind of divided with politics. Throw them out the window, people. Open the window, toss the politics, because we're all part of the human race, and children are missing, and young women and boys, they need to be found. So, Doc, if you want to quick run a couple of those missing things, I will
Okay.
run down them very fast, so that Jodie and Samantha can probably get to bed. Um, this is Renee Lane. She's 17 years old. She's 5'1" and 103 pounds. Brown hair, brown eyes. Her little boy, Jeremy Larson, is a year old. Black hair, brown eyes. Um, she was last seen on June 8th at approximately 6 p.m. She was leaving her residence of Plateau Drive in Pasco, Washington, with her 1-year-old son, heading in an unknown direction. She was last seen in a black zipper hoodie, gray leggings, Nike Air Force shoes. They don't know what Jeremy had on. He was a baby. The case number 25-0307-30452. If you see her, call 911. They've put this out in behalf the Washington State Patrol put this out in behalf of the Lumi Nation Police Department. Call 911. This is Taylin Lee Jordan. She's from Missoula, Montana. She's been missing since July 4th. She's only 15. She's got brown eyes, black hair. She's 6 foot tall and 150 pounds. Someone has seen this tall, beautiful girl. So Missoula Police Department, 406-552-6300, or they have a clearinghouse number of 406-444-2800. Okay, if you've seen her, call it. The next one is a young man. This is Siobhan Small Eyes. He's from Alberta, Canada, and Lethbridge. July 7th of this year is the last he was seen. He's 12. Someone's got to find this little guy. They don't have a height or weight on him, but the Lethbridge Police Department is 403-328-4444. Case number 25-054563. Call 911. Let's get him found. The next young man, let me see here. Whoops.
This is the last one.
Yeah, I accidentally put something in between that I shouldn't have. Okay, let me grab that real fast. But this young man is only 17. He is from Rapid City, South Dakota, 605-394-4131, Gabrielle Gilly. He's 6 foot, 170 pounds, and he was last seen on July 8th. So let's see if we can help find him. But you guys, I want to thank you all for coming to support Samantha tonight. If you think that somebody has been trafficked, there is a traffic hotline number. It's 1-888-373-7888, or text HELP to 233-733. If you see something that looks funky, get on it. Do something. Don't just sit there. I appreciate you sharing your story, Samantha, and Jodie for coming and supporting her and helping us understand some things about these people that, go missing, and, that there is a bigger picture here. There's a lot to take in. But the internet really can eliminate some of these barriers that we have, and we can reach more people. So you guys share this video, like it, make a comment tomorrow after it's been cooked. That's what I call it, because Doc has to cook the video after we go live, and it takes YouTube a while to finish it up. But if you comment, these are the things that will help us get this video more views. We want this out there. We want people to see it. Share it with your friends and family, because that's important that we get it out. But, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate, and I'm sorry your family is going through this. But
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for just listening and helping. And we can't do it without you guys. This is exactly what we need to help find Sarah and help bring her home. So thank you very much.
So remember, guys, Sarah's loved. Her family wants her safe. Sarah, if you can hear us by any chance, mistakes are never held against us. when we're children like this, or even when we're adults and we make mistakes. Your family is waiting for your return. So, everyone listening tonight, if you know something, please speak up. Every voice matters here. When someone's missing, don't let the silence be what keeps a family from finding their loved one. Sara isn't just a statistic here, you guys. She's a daughter, and she deserves to come home safely. Until next time, I want you all to stay informed and compassionate and seek justice. Thank you for tuning in, you guys, and we'll see you next time, okay? We'll see you Sunday night. And I'll see y'all in the Discord because we'll be cooking up some plans. So thank you guys. Samantha, I'm so sorry, sweetheart.